Hey,
Geraldine!
Hi,
Geraldine,
Geraldine.
Hi,
where
beautiful
are
souls.
Geraldine? We're missing. Are you at the conference here?
Yes, I am. I'm so excited to come down.
You're in Phoenix. Well, I'm sitting right here in the conference room, so come on down.
Oh, beautiful. I can't wait to connect with you. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here. I love everything. I've been tuning in the past couple days. You guys are amazing. Thank you, Neil and panel, for everything you're doing.
Well, I was just a little distracted, yeah. But Geraldine, welcome, welcome, welcome to this amazing portal we are opening here this weekend, and you have been a part of that Ascension wave. So I'm really excited by what you have to say here, and welcome, and just tell us the latest from the world of the divine feminine and the awakening of the connection to the cosmic others, as J.J. Hurtak would say it. Okay.
Wow.
It's all yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alan, for that warm welcome, and everybody in the chat and everyone here. Thank you very much. It's such an honor to be here as always. And there's some things that have been really, really coming into the collective over the past couple of months, especially the past couple of weeks have been very busy in regards to downloads and understanding of where we're at right now as a collective. It's a very exciting time. It's a very special time, and it's an important time because we are moving into some changes. And right now, one of the most important things that have been coming down for me is to take a look at our future. What does our future look like now that we have had this incredible opportunity over the past 3 years to kind of stop, reset, and take a look at ourselves so that we can understand what we need in order to create a new society? So this presentation that I'm going to share with you right now, I'd love to share with you some concepts, some ideas of what it would take to create a new society. Many people right now are being called to create a new society, communities, conscious communities, groups, connections. We are literally coming into the embodiment, into the physicality of the whole aspect of what unity consciousness actually looks like. And there are different steps that I would love to share with you, and I'm going to share my presentation now. But this is what I would love to present on today. So some of you that have not met me, my name is Geraldine Orozco. I'm a psychotherapist, and I am primarily working with something called DNA reprogramming, which focuses on the deprogramming of false belief systems or negative and limiting belief systems in order to help the human, this complex organism that we are, embody its highest expression. And one of the things that we're experiencing here, we understand many laws of the universe that help us understand the structures of how things function, is that we are fractals of infinite consciousness. And in order to embody this new way of being in this new society, we have to understand the mechanics of our reality and the mechanics of our physical body. So what would it take to create a new society in our world today? Couple of things that I have jot down just as a focus for us as the humans, as the individuals, is multidimensional awareness of ourselves. If we don't understand what this organism is, if we don't understand how it functions, the world around us is utilizing our awareness, the structure, the understanding, the intelligence of ourselves, in other words, and inverting things in order to create this hologram. And it's very interesting, the reality that we live in right now, because if we take a close look at the systems of, let's say, systems of control, systems that are managing the different areas of our life, whether it's our food systems, pharmaceuticals, our politics, our society, religion, culture, all these things have been very carefully designed from the inside out since the beginning of time. And if we understand the origin of who we are, what we are, and how this system functions, those that are unaware, unfortunately, become victims, in a sense, and they become parasites, not only to themselves, but those around them. And so this is the natural cause of the cause and effect of the experiences that we're experiencing here in this dualistic expression. Now, beyond that, once we understand how this physical body works, how it functions, how it can be expanded and contracted, how it becomes creative and counter-creative, we want to understand how each one of us are fractals of one another. There is really a unity consciousness. We are mirrors of one another, and therefore what we are is a collection, a communication, and a grouping of consciousness in order to experience this greater. And the next is unconditional love, in terms of unconditional love not being simply just emotion or a state of being, but really the embodiment of unconditional love is an activation of ourselves down to the very cellular molecular level. It is a state of incredible creation that we can tune into. It is understanding all of the above and all of the below on this list, understanding how matter functions and how we control matter. Now, the next is the understanding of the function of matter. When we understand how things and what this hologram consists of, how it functions, how we as the organism in a state of awareness can affect matter, we can begin to change many things in our reality, in our immediate experience and in our external experience. And what we're moving towards now in the future, in the next couple of years, especially until 2024, is the embodiment of this, the application of this in the self, in our family nucleus, in society, and in the collective. And of course, our DNA hologram, which helps us understand a more integrated look at what we are experiencing, why we experience what we experience, and perhaps even the purpose of each individual soul here on this earth. What are you here to do? Why? How? And what are the things that don't allow us to move forward in that? And finally, the new generation, which is our children. The focus right now, especially for me and my projects that are coming up in the next couple months, are specifically, exclusively focused on children, because we are here to create a new society, not just by setting an example in the embodiment of the highest expression, but holding space for children that are the next generation. And the children that are coming in are already the embodiment of a lot of the things that we are trying to deprogram and begin to embody. So it's almost as if we are, as we are evolving collectively into this awareness, state of awareness, in order to experience collectively, we are moving with children and holding space for this next generation, which is incredibly powerful. And I will kind of explain why. Now, there are different levels of creation. We're going to start with the first part, the awareness of ourselves. How are we co-creating in this reality? The different levels of awareness of where we are creating, whether we are totally at effect, which means that we are basically abiding by the laws of cause and effect. And that means that we are usually hypnotized by the things around us, manipulated and easily controlled, because we are completely unaware of the physical body. Our first three chakras, which manage our rooting in the physical body, our exchanges and sexual energy, and then our third chakra, which manages the emotions, right? So these become manipulated, and they easily can become entangled in many different timelines by the choices that we're making. The human body is an organism that is fragmented into infinite potential, infinite fragments, and we are living all of those things simultaneously. But in this one embodiment right now, we are choosing whether we are at cause, which means are we creating, or are we counter-creating and just being the effect of the cause. Now, the second level of this is a constant state of needing to protect. You're kind of aware that you can, things are happening to you. And so we embody this need, this desperate need to want to protect ourselves. And this is where that competition, that punishment, which is what you guys were just talking about a minute ago, how we come into these concepts of separation and judgment. This is the second stage of awareness. And so this chart to me is one of the most powerful charts, because it really helps us understand where we are still stuck in our perception of reality, where we're still operating from. And the idea is that our us as a collective humanity begin to embody and become aware of where we are creating on this scale. Okay, the next is power. Okay, so we begin to understand how cause and effects function, but we are now embodying power. We believe that we are controlling something, but our logical mind, the reptilian mind that is in survival mode still, is the one that's in charge of action. So a lot of times it's about the protection, ambition, money, all these things. So this is what we become. We become this ambitious self. And we see this a lot in the corporate world. Unfortunately, because basically the system understands all of these levels. They understand how to manipulate emotions through everything from music, vibrational frequency, to food, to society, to pharmaceuticals, to education. All of these things are very carefully structured in order to invert our understanding of our expression. And so normally for the normal masses, we believe that power is the highest state of being, right? The one that accumulates material goods and has the ability of mastering and manipulating that. So let's go to the next one, which we come into peace and compassion. Now, in peace and compassion, we begin to understand a little bit more solution-based. We kind of begin to think that because of the things that are happening to us, we want to affect them in some way. And this is where we begin to come into unconditional love. Okay, so this is, I think, this is the base level that we want to be at a society in order to begin to co-create a new reality for us, a new state of living and expanding. And what we become is caring and peaceful. Okay, so go ahead and check in this entire scale. Where are you creating from? I want you to check in to see that. Now, number 5 has to do with reflection and communication. Now that we have understood the awareness of ourselves, we're taking time to reflect. We go inward, and this is really the most powerful state of where we begin to manifest, because this is where we begin to become clear in our communication. What are we expressing? What are we creating? And a lot of this is where higher levels of consciousness begin to have postulates and decrees. We're kind of decreeing, we're beginning to taking baby steps into the manifestation and the mastery of verb, word, vibrational frequency, sound, and light. Okay, this is where we begin to master this language of the universe. And this is also where we begin to manifest. Okay, so this is really, really important because we begin to kind of come into these higher levels. Now, the next one is the level of awareness. Now, we have transcended just the cause and effect aspect now. We are beginning to have full total awareness, and in a sense, we enter a state of complete state of consciousness and presence in the moment. And this is where we follow truth. Those of you that are on a path for truth are beginning to embody, beginning to question, asking the questions, not just any questions, but the questions necessary in order to understand yourselves at a very depth of everything that you are, your programs, your limitations, your fears, your belief systems that are no longer productive to the creating. And this is where we start entering a level of seer and prophet. So as you can see, each of us are fluctuating probably through any of these sessions at any given time. But the idea is that we become aware where we're at every moment. Now, creation, the 7th level, is where we start to experience miracles. And this is where we begin to become alchemists. Alchemists of our reality, alchemists of creation. This is where we begin to experience the ability to master and manage matter around us. And we are pulling into our inspiration. We literally become a co-creator. And this can only occur by coming into a heightened state of unity with all things around you. This is kind of where we see Jedis, for example, from films like Star Wars that talk about Jedis. This is a wonderful example of something that every human is capable of achieving by the mastery of their mind and the hologram in which we live in. The highest level which we want to attain as a society is pure knowing, pure consciousness, pure light, pure love. This is enlightened awareness. And this is the highest state of unity, in which basically form begins to dissolve because we become light beings. You see yourself as light and you see others as light. So if you take a look at all of these different states of consciousness, we have been in history, historically, and are currently ascending, you can say, evolving through these different stages of creation. And each one of these stages of creation define down to the atomic level the people, places, things, everything that makes up our reality. So when it comes to creating a new kind of state of living, we are moving through, in and out, all of these multiple dimensional planes that consist of all of these potential realities. But we are essentially, the way that the universe is actually functioning is these contrasting and expansive energies. We are involving and involving. And the powerful thing about understanding this is that our physical body is a fractal function of the way that the greater universe functions. The greater universe also functions in this infolding and enfolding manner. We are literally moving through white hole, black hole, which means it's contractive energy and expansive energy. And at the center point of these points, we are reaching a singularity point, which is essentially that state of light being. And then again, we begin to go back into that scale of evolution on a higher note now, higher range. So everything in our reality is moving in and out of these beautiful, you can say, braiding of energy, of expression of consciousness, of self-organized awareness and intelligence that allows us to understand what we are. Now, this movement is true for the universe, and it's also true for our physical body. Within our physical bodies, our DNA also functions in this way. It is a braiding that creates the expansion and contraction of this energy. Everything in the universe has dual expressions. Everything in the universe has this feminine and masculine aspects to it. And even our DNA, even the way that DNA is expressing its geometric expression, it is designed by the information that is encoded within your physical body. And what is inside the physical body, what is inside this data, is everything, all of that infinite potential fractalized down to the physical body, which we call our physical body, the vessel. Everything in our body is designed to mathematical perfection to match this golden ratio. Even our DNA, even the movement, the expression, the measurement of the sequence of DNA is designed in this way. So what I find the most beautiful about this information is that we find the golden ratio in all things in the universe, everything from nature to leaves on a tree, to clouds in the sky, to weather patterns, to the way humans move collectively in society. There was a study that was done looking at how masses in shopping malls or in large areas where people gather, they seem to always flow together in some mathematical movement, some mathematical arrangement that was able to be mapped out. So we have this encoded down to our genetic level into the subconscious collective of this organism that we participate in as a whole. And that means something. That means that there is an intelligence to what we are participating in. Now, every single individual that is here partaking in this human experience has a certain vibrational signature. And their vibrational signature is based on their genetic data, their DNA. And this DNA has a very unique geometrical structure to it. This geometrical structure will define the evolutionary cycle that the human is in, and it also defines the kind of life and experience that it's going to be having. everything in the universe is functioning in this way, including how energy is moving through your body. So if you take a look at how our energy is moving through the body, just like this lattice type structure of energy that moves through, we also have a way to maintain balance and health in the organism that we call the physical body. When this energy doesn't move in a fluid manner, when it gets stuck, when it becomes stagnant, this is where we begin to counter-create. Again, these are the functions of the universe that we're understanding in a physical body. When we have negative thought forms, when we have limiting beliefs, when we have stagnation of emotions and energy, they begin to solidify. Why? Because they are lowering in vibrational frequency. Why? Because frequency is a wavelength, and the wavelength movement, the way that that wavelength is moving, it can either be really fast or really, really slow. And the slower it is, the heavier it is, the lower density it becomes, and it becomes more of a solid, slowing down the natural movement of your body, which is matching the rhythm of the universe if it so chooses to do that. The way that it chooses to do that is with awareness. So let's take it to the next level now. We are a manifestation of these conscious organisms that are participating in this collective. The geometric structure that is our DNA is made up of these incredible platonic solids. So you can say that the platonic solids, if we combine them, if we read them in our genetic hologram, you can understand where you are from, your history, where you are from, meaning all of the different bloodlines that have been combining to create who you are. And what we're seeing and what we're beginning to understand is that we are a collection of genetic lineages. We are a hybridized race. Now, I have been a contactee my entire life, but in the experience of contactee, I had participation in the hybridization program. And one of my biggest questions with that was, what makes humans special? What makes it so that humans are participating in a hybridization program? And as I went through many different cycles of understanding, layers and layers of unpacking what this human structure looks like because of the ability to see the multidimensional body, is that we are a cocktail of DNA. We have been genetically modified since the origin of life on this planet. And even beyond that, because again, there is no time, everything is occurring simultaneously. But the incredible thing about that is that your human body right now at this moment is a collection of these genetic structures. And each one of them have a different atomic structure to it, a different shape, you can say. So you are made up of all of those things. It's kind of like a musical, like a song. It has different notes in order to create a certain sound, a certain song. And you are that. You are that expression. You are the expression of vibrational frequency that is designed specifically to live the life that you have. If we look at all things in matter, if we begin to expand our vision now from our physical body to all things around us in this hologram, we essentially are projecting from our holographic DNA, our environment, everything that we're going to be experiencing, seeing, feeling, now and in the future, in the past, in all simultaneous timelines, are an expression of these platonic solids. What do I mean? The way that light bends, source, infinite consciousness comes down through these different dimensional planes, becomes fractalized at every dimensional plane. And in a sense, light is bent in a certain way in order to create certain geometric forms. On the highest dimensional levels, we are experiencing beings that are light beings. They don't need the physical body anymore. They are just these harmonic frequencies that make up what they are. And we also embody that they are a fragment of ourselves, our future selves, you can say, if you would like to kind of conceptualize this simultaneous linear timeline, non-linear timeline. But within our hologram of our genetic structure. So this is a picture of a DNA helix. And what you see here is that it was spliced in the middle so that you can see all these geometric structures. All humans have these different geometric structures to them. But when you look at the hologram in the crystallized form of your DNA, that's where you begin to notice that every human has a different vibrational frequency. They are also writing in vivo the information that makes up the physical body. We are literally writing the physical body. And everything that we're experiencing is kind of that is the whole purpose of our existence. It is to experience. It's not so much that we are necessarily having to evolve from A to B, but everything that we experience here and our fragments experience are experiencing individually and collectively. So the way that we are moving, the way actually that the entire universe functions, moving in this spiral, vortex-like projection, and this holographic projection of a spiral, which we are moving through in this current time, we are going from the 13th aspect of this spiral to the 21st. What does that mean? Right now, we have access to our 13-dimensional planes. We have 13 chakras in the body that we have access to. Each one of these 13 chakras allow the vortex entry into each dimensional plane. That means that all of the ET beings that we're coming more into contact with here, it's becoming very mainstream contact. People are remembering their hybridization experiences. People are understanding their children as remembering their hybrid experiences and their living on other planets. I mean, when we say the veil is thinning, what that means is that we're reaching a very heightened point of vibrational frequency collectively, because through this movement in the universe, we are reaching the center point of this movement, of this spiral that we're moving through. And as we evolve, meaning that we are activating more strands of our genetic data, our hologram, so that we have access to even more of that. But now the interesting thing is that most of us now on this planet Earth have gone through 2 years of major awakening. And that awakening has helped us, and we're going to go even more through an awakening. This month is going to catapult us into the next 12 months of major awakening for the collective. So we need to take time during this incredible opportunity in our reality so that we can begin to understand what we need in order to, let's say, experience the most positive outcome in this collective shift. Because of the way that we're moving through things, we're going to have to experience a heavy kind of leaving of this contrast that we're experiencing. So there's a lot of wars that are happening, a lot of control that wants to be implemented into society more than ever now because of this awakening. And that means that we have to get very clear of what it means to be sovereign individuals. What does it mean to be self-governing over this vessel? It means that we have to learn how to activate these 13 chakras, but what that means on a more practical manner, more grounded manner, is that we have to embody complete awareness of our physicality and our non-physicality. Because your organism, the majority of your organism, is actually non-physical. The part of us that is experiencing the physical is a tiny little fractal, tiny little fragment, and only one of infinite potentials. How Source moves from its origin down to this physical dimension, it is choosing to experience, which is very important to remember. Everything is an experience. Our negative things that happen to us, positive things that happen to us, experience, nothing more. So if we begin, just like in that chart that I showed you at the beginning, to shift our perception from being at cause and effect, or victims, or someone is doing something to me, or I am helpless in this situation, whatever it is that you're experiencing in your life. It can be a family relationship, it can be the war that we're experiencing. We need to shift out of the feeling and identifying with these experiences into a complete awareness that everything is just a temporary experience. And that will help us lessen the fragmentation that occurs. In this matrix hologram that we have chosen to experience at this time, at this nonlinear simultaneous time, we are here that every time that this soul, this vessel experiences trauma. How do we define trauma? Trauma is any time that we feel helpless. Anytime that we feel helpless, overwhelmed, helpless, don't know what to do in that moment, we literally are soul fragments into fragments. And these fragments create timelines. They suspended timelines in this net hologram, which we are in, this net field, and they become reference points to which we become attached to. Those reference points from the earth level create these identifications, these personalities per se, this kind of identifying, and it's a very limiting concept of our expression. So we have to try to move past that so that we can begin to understand. How do we do that? Reintegration of those fragments, okay? Each of the fragments that become aware of themselves in those timelines now activate DNA, they release you, they shift the chemicals in the body as well, because everything is recorded down to the muscular, down to the every single layer of the body. The skin is a layer which functions like an antenna, the muscles, the cells, down to the cellular level. We are all constantly storing massive amounts of information in our body. And what happens is that when we're in a constant state of survival, the way that this matrix is kind of set up is that we're utilizing the laws of exchange. So whoever is in a state of self-hate, self-rejection becomes a parasite, not only to themselves internally because they manifest illnesses, but externally, we also become this parasitic exchange and embodiment. And the way we experience that individually is the exact same way that this entire system, which we can call this matrix, is a manifestation of this dualistic exchange. So our awareness in that sense needs to move us from the place of being victimized, separate, into the internal alchemy, the marriage, the internal marriage of the feminine and masculine within. There are these beings, these entities, you can call them, this consciousness, that is an expression of any parasitic consciousness, that really does feed off of this, because when we become parasitic, we forget that we are our own source of fulfillment. And therefore, we need from outside in order to fulfill us. And this is where things start to kind of go out of balance, because not only are we depleted from our life force, just the way that our society has created very parasitic systems like the work environments, capitalistic designs of society, all of these kind of structures, even our education is completely inverted in such a way that creates more confusion and very specific compartmentalized way of looking at society. All of these things are constantly drilling into the brain separation. And we want to move away from that because we are inherently, absolutely not separation. Now, let's take it to the next level when we're talking about the terrestrial, but interdimensional. This is a question that I get a lot, right? So let's say the interdimensional aspect, what happens when we get up to the higher realms? The same way that we experience the process of awakening in our current lifetime, we have to experience that same spiral because everything is functioning in spirals. And I'm going to show that to you in just a moment. But because everything is cyclical patterns, self-similar cyclical patterns, until we break those cyclical patterns. And it's not so much as breaking, it's becoming a new frequency. We become, through resonance, we shift our frequency into another way of seeing. We are also doing this in the higher realms. And our dream time is actually one of the most important levels of the subconscious mind, because this is where the human is most active. And the dreams that we think are just, maybe silly dreams, maybe it can be something very abstract, like you have a dream with a dog playing with a ball. You would be surprised that oftentimes the meaning behind these dreams, when we really connect to our internal self, actually has incredibly profound meaning. And all that we're looking at is just the rational mind, the human mind, trying to conceptualize very profound concepts from higher dimensional planes. This is what dream time is for. So on the next aspect of that, when you begin to move into the astral plane, you are now navigating. Your astral body is now leaving the physical body and navigating in the astral plane. And as it begins to navigate in the astral plane, it comes in contact with itself. Okay, why do I say that? Because I really would love, in order to create this new society, for us to move away from the concept of separation in such a way that we begin to understand that everything is a reflection of us. You and I are a reflection of each other. Collectively, our human race is a reflection of other aspects of our creation, like these beings, like these different dimensional beings, which are nothing more than manifestations of vibrational frequency. And they are a projection of our genetic hologram, what is the genetic hologram? It is a database of creation. It's a database of infinite possibility. It is the fragmentation into the physical realm of infinite source. So all of these beings that we can connect with in the astral plane, when we have ET contact, are aspects of ourselves, perhaps future selves, if you want to put a timeline to it. But really, it is an evolutionary aspect of ourselves that we are meeting. And because of the way that information unites in this matrix multiverse, it's by resonance. So you yourself were born into your family, okay, based on all of this genetically modified lineages from the beginning of time, the beginning of this multiverse, which again, it's not linear, it's simultaneously all of your aspects of yourself are merged together to create what you are. You are a product of that. It's like a genetically modified organism. In your system, you have all of this alien DNA. And the alien DNA is what your entire family, ancestral lineage is going to be experiencing. Depending on the different modifications that it's made, changes. Every participant in that ancestral lineage that wakes up and that becomes aware, activates their DNA, it creates a shift in the collective ancestral lineage, which means that it's moving in and out of different dimensional timelines. It is moving out of different vibrational frequencies of species, because the species are more a spectrum of vibrational frequency, and they're also organized in the body anatomically by frequency. So when we're in the gestation process of our mother's womb, we are beginning to gestate all of these aspects of ourselves, and everything that we come into energetically and emotionally, where we feel the mother, we feel the father, all of that encodes and programs the organism that we are. And it dictates the life that we're going to have. And it dictates the contact we're going to have or not have. It dictates the trauma that we're going to experience or not experience. So if you see, in order to create a new society, this is one of the most important steps, in my opinion, at the turn of this next 2 years of the shift that we're going through. It is an education of parents, the ones that are holding the new soul in the body, because the cultivation of our emotions, the mastery over our emotions, over our ability to manifest and create reality, begins with the mastery and awareness of our vessel, the education of that vessel. And we are literally holding space for a new life that comes in, which will be programmed. We actually participate in the indoctrination and programming of our children because we are unaware of our own emotions. And so this is something that is really important for us to take note, those that are expecting mothers or planning to have children in the future or have children already, that we begin to understand how we can begin to deprogram these very heavily rooted systems of programs and beliefs that we are embodying and we are inheriting and we are hosting as parents in our experience. And the child, when the child is born, we have all these incredible hybrid children being born that are highly activated. They already have all their 13 chakras completely open, which is why they can remember. They can remember their past lives. They can remember past lives being simultaneous lives. They can access information from their higher dimensional fragments, which are their ET hologram from their genetic code. And all of this begins to inform what the physical vessel has the potential of experiencing. Now, in all of this information from the highest dimensional plane down to the physical body is fragmented through the dimensional plane, because as the planes become denser, less light moves through them, which means that only specific amount of information can be processed through those systems. They are self-similar systems of information processing, but only certain frequencies of information can be processed through those dimensional planes. And our organs of our body are one of the most important aspects that help process the chemical component of the processing of data. That means our experiences. So if we're in a constant state of survival, we're going to be processing heavy, heavy chemicals that cause stress. And ultimately, of course, all the reactions of that chemical reaction begin to excite the lymphatic system on overdrive, and we begin to have all kinds of immune system problems, imbalances. It is important that we educate ourselves on how this functions, because this is our understanding to health, vitality, longevity. The ability to hold space for this next generation has to change to a level of awareness that is unprecedented from before. It is time to embody this wisdom, no longer just conceptualize it, but live by this wisdom in the way that we are handling ourselves in our everyday lives, our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, our choices. All of that, moment by moment, is affected and is informing the collective experience. And these children that are coming wide open become programmed with our fears that we inherit into them. And then we bombard them with heavily vibrational frequencies that are designed to destroy this harmonic structure, this structure that we are, this signature, vibrational signature that we are. It interferes in the development of emotions. It interferes in the connection of their intuition in their body in such a powerful way that the children become enslaved by their emotions because they don't know how to manage them. So the education of these emotions is essential to the future of humanity. The education of the mastery of the self is essential. Now, our matrix, what we call matrix, was created and designed by a red bloodline, which was shown to me to be a center of the earth bloodline, which they are the masters of the physical matrix. They are the architects of matrix. They design everything from the inside out. How do they design it? Because they understand how this genetic structure, hologram, and how information is fragmented from source into this manifestation experience. And what that means is that the system outside of us knows us better than we do. And so this is the thing where we really need to wake up consciousness at this time. Okay, if something outside of us that is parasitic knows us better than we know ourselves, obviously that's not going to go so well, and it hasn't been going so well in the past few centuries. However, in the greater picture of all of this, everything is harmonizing because we are here to experience duality. And this is something that is really important to remember, but I will get to that in just a moment. The second bloodline that was shown to me that seeded life is the draconian reptilian bloodline, which makes up our reptilian brain and the primal function of our genetic structure. Everything that is survival in the human mind, everything that is a representation of how to navigate a dualistic separation expression of experience. All of this is encoded within our genetic structure. We are, because of the kind of frequency that we're moving through, not only in the greater multiverse, but we are trying to learn how to work with this, how to control this, how to manage this aspect of ourselves. This is the key. If this draconian mind, if this aspect of ourselves is highly active in us, we are oftentimes in war, we are in separation, we are in fear, we are in survival. Okay, so it's really, really important. If we're constantly in that state, we're causing illness to ourselves and the connected. We are the parasitic aspect. The third bloodline is the Pleiadian bloodline. Now, they are quite interested in the hybridization program, but this is where the humanoid structure of this hologram is designed from, as well. And from there, of course, from all of these three main bloodlines, many different species were created, many, millions. But in this current timeline, we have access to 13 main archetypal expressions of frequency, not species, frequency. And the way that we see them on these alternate planes is what we are projecting from our DNA. So if we have a lot of Lyran Pleiadian genetics in us, we're going to have a lot of contact with Lyran Pleiadians. Okay, and usually this runs in the family. So usually our parents will have the same thing. Pay attention to the kind of craft that you're seeing, because all of that is a manifestation of what we are experiencing. Now, what makes the colors of our DNA, and what does it say about us? And the color of your DNA represents a vibrational frequency of your biological structure, but it's also our harmonic signature. Okay, and so this signature is based on one of these platonic solids. Has more of a certain platonic solid. So the red bloodline has more iron molecule, for example. The green bloodline is more chlorophyll, and so all of these, for example, we have them existing in our Earth. We have them existing, but we have these genetics because we all have the same base DNA genetic code for all living beings. We're just a couple little genetic codons away from monkeys and even fish or whatever it is, all these other organisms. We are all coming from the same genetic code. It's just turning on and off certain aspects of our genetic code that create the output of this form that we are. So that being said, when we begin to activate consciously our DNA, we begin to activate these aspects of ourselves, and it will change our entire human body. When we get to the higher realms of the 21st, that means we'll have access to 21 chakra system. That means that we have access to 21 dimensional plane beings. And this will help us understand moving out of the limitation of the dualistic expression into a more expansive way of being, managing, dealing. And each one of these dimensions that manifest this is a very powerful secret code that I was shown years ago when I did a hypnotherapy of a language of the universe. And in these platonic solids, in the way that these structures are created, we have communications in our nature. We have crop circles that show up with these specific shapes. If we read and we look at these specific shapes and create them, design them mathematically into these platonic solids, if we understand how they're made up of these kinds of shapes of light and sound, they will tell us where the species are from, or I should say frequency of beings left behind, what they left behind, what is being communicated. And this is true for our human language, just like light language. Light language is a geometric expression. It's a holographic vibrational frequency that we are emitting. We can only see in the visible spectrum, we can only see this very, very little range of colors. But when a lot of contactees are able to see colors that they can't even imagine, they begin to see colors that are these incredible ranges of colors, and we wouldn't know how to explain them here, okay? I've seen them in my contact, and in my groups, I hear it all the time. It's a color that I cannot describe. Why? Because when we raise the vibrational frequency, when we activate the DNA and we have contact, we have access to higher range of frequencies. We can see more. We are seeing different ranges of colors and waves. So we are an expression of all these things. Now, our human body looks like this guy right here. Every single one of our chakras is projecting outside of us, and the movement and the merging of our chakra system creates it's like a screen for the projection of experience that we're having. So everything that's encoded in the chakra system, the traumas, past lives, ET contact, all of that is being processed and projected into the screen that is the experience that we're having. There is nothing outside of us. This is the thing that's the hardest thing, because we see a table, chairs, we see a room, we see a desk, and we think, wow, these things are separate to me, they're outside. But in fact, we are literally projecting every one of those things, just like the film The Matrix. When they begin to master and realize that it's a hologram, they can begin to affect matter. And this is where we begin to come into the deeper, higher knowledge of that. We want to learn how to affect the external, but more importantly, the internal. And what is inside the physical body is programs and programs that are inherited in this cyclical patterns, self-cyclical patterns that we're embodying. So the more deprogramming we do of these limiting belief systems, the more we activate DNA, the more the organism expands, which means that it becomes aware of itself as all things, past lives, extraterrestrial aspects of yourself. Your body literally looks like this. This is how you look. When I see a person, this is what I see. I see themselves and their fragments, their attachments, their cords, everything in their body. And so the idea is that we begin to reintegrate the fragments. What does that mean? You become one with everything. And essentially, we become universes in this way. It depends on how our vortices are spiraling around us and how we are expressing. So the most important part of this is that we are becoming one. It is the merging of these two dualistic aspects, the marriage, this alchemical marriage of our dualistic aspects that creates this incredible human. And for the future that we're creating, we need to activate these tools so that we can begin to communicate with the universe in this way, telepathically. We begin to utilize quantum non-locality in order to move illness out of the body, transport, connect in higher dimensional planes. The faster your vortex is spinning with less blockages, less limiting beliefs, the more you are creating. You become that heightened state of expression, and you begin to match not only Earth, but the higher movement of the universe. And this is what we want to try to move in towards as we teach our children to also embody this. This is so important. I see a lot of kids at school that are just constantly depressed. They're hooked onto their little music machines or their iPhones and their computers, and there's such a severe cut between the energetic system of their body and what they're able to generate. Okay, they are even more powerful than us because they have the ability of moving through blockages in their field faster than we are, because the less amount of programming that there is their take. So all of this really affects the states of consciousness. And this is where we want to begin to understand that we have to educate ourselves as a whole and begin to embody. It's about embodiment now. Now until 2024, we are trying to we are cycling through things. It's not that we're breaking cycles necessarily. It's that we're moving into the next cycle of learning. This learning never ends. It's a never-ending cycles of experiences in new ways, in new forms, until we reach the highest of all. And essentially, we no longer need to embody this physical body. We just become this whole light being. And all of us have access to that as now. So how do we move forward as society in order to embody our highest expression? There's many different ways that we want to do that. And I talked about some of them today, and I hope that this presentation inspires you to kind of take action in what you're doing, take awareness, take consciousness, allow this spiritual embodiment to take precedence over anything else in life, because we understand that life is a product of everything that we are believing and experiencing and embodying. And this system that we're a part of is such a beautiful creation. It's a delicate manifestation of perfect balance. Everything that we're experiencing in the universe is operating just as it should, because again, the purpose of our existence is simply to experience. And there really is no limitation to what we can experience. Now, if you would like to work with me, this is the end of my presentation. You are welcome to work with me in hypnotherapy. I am a clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm also doing DNA reprogramming, among other things. I also host a contactee support group, which is really wonderful group where we dive really deep into these topics and talk about everything from hybridization to contact experiences and DNA. And let me just stop my sharing. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much for listening to this today. And I hope that it inspires us to hopefully come into this unity consciousness and begin to join forces. I know that many people are being called to create these conscious communities and create these societies. So if you guys are interested in doing that, definitely connect and let's make that happen. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Geraldine. And just to let you know, I don't know if I've told you, but I'm actively looking for land to create a community, and I just came up with a team. We're doing a whole retreat in Mexico with some high-level people to really, to fine-tune this. But let's have a conversation, because if you're like in support of this, maybe we can talk about how to do it.
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing next week, Neil, going to Mexico, looking for land for the exact same reason. So let's definitely collect. And I'm actually planning a retreat down there myself. So
okay, I got some information to share with you. But
okay, awesome.
And I just want to say also, because I know a lot of people on the panel probably have something to say, but I love just the whole concept of us being here to experience just takes off the burden of this darkness, And not only that, it's like what I've been saying a lot lately and really resonates with me is that the singularity, the cosmic egg, the infinite potential bursts into countless possibilities, bursts into duality, good, bad, evil, all that stuff, right? All came from that singularity. So the duality that came from the singularity is not separate, and the singularity doesn't weigh one part of the duality as more than the other. It's not like the singularity manifested duality and said, oh, I choose this side of my own self. Right. So in the eyes of the grand scheme of source and cosmos, both things are valid, because ultimately experiencing yourself only as positivity is only half the experience,
Exactly. This is the thing, because sometimes we're like, oh my God, if I'm not positive, I'm doing something wrong. But this idea that we're just experiencing just helps you understand, come back to that neutrality, because that's actually where we enter a state of creation and unity with all things. That neutrality, it's not a matter of going to either side of that. And it allows to have balance in the body. The entire organism begins to function properly when we come into this neutrality as well. So there's so much to learn, so much to talk about. It's really nice. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, Michelle, Joan, you want to comment before we go on?
What a grounded presentation, Geraldine. I was really looking forward to paying attention and listening to you today, because I haven't experienced your work yet. And wow, you give me hope for the future. So thank you so much for what you brought today. I really, really appreciate it. and you're so special. I can't wait to dig further into what you're doing, how you're helping more people.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited. And to anybody that wants to connect and collaborate, I think we should probably have a meeting about that. But yeah, so if you want to work with me, please connect with me at my website, GeraldineOrozco.com, and then my YouTube, Geraldine Orozco. Thank you.
I just loved your presentation, Geraldine. So many different aspects. You know, the fact is, the human potential is very vast. And I think the bottom line is, like, we can change our DNA, we can change our timelines. And we all came down here as part of these programs. I love that you were able to show us the bloodlines and the programs, and you do it in such a conscious way. You are so effective as a teacher.
Oh,
so
thank you.
I really tell you that.
Very glad to hear that. Thank you so much. It's been such an honor to be here with all you great people. I can't wait to hear your presentation, Joan, later.
I can't wait to hear it either.
Awesome.
Real quick, one more thing is we spoke briefly about doing a weekend mystery school series with you, and you said you were interested in it. So I'm just going to throw it out there that it's in the works. We just got to figure out the details. But pretty soon, a weekend retreat with Geraldine online, multiple hours, because there's just so much information, you know. So it'll give you the opportunity to really peel things back and go deeper.
Love that. Can't wait.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Love you, Geraldine.